high expectations. It was something colder, harder, and more personal. And here's the part that often gets overlooked. Many believed Harry was complicit. While public perception painted him as the cheerful, affable one, Valentine's sources didn't make that distinction. They saw both Harry and Meghan as part of the same machinery. The idea that Harry was a peacemaker behind the scenes, stepping in when Meghan crossed a line, wasn't something they recognized. From their perspective, he wasn't rescuing anyone. If anything, he was backing her up. When Valentine was writing his book, Courtiers, the pressure was immense. He knew that every word would be scrutinized, not just by readers, but by lawyers on all sides. His legal team advised him, if you're going to put any allegations to Harry and Meghan, you can't cherry pick. You have to show them everything. But once you do that, they'll likely demand access to the entire manuscript, which opens a whole new can of worms, endless delays, edits, and the very real risk of the whole project being tied up for months. So they made a call. Don't show them anything. And again, silence. There was no legal letter, no statement, nothing. It was a stark contrast to their usual strategy, and it raised an uncomfortable question. Was the lack of response because they had nothing to challenge, or because they didn't want to give the story more oxygen? The bullying narrative didn't exist in a vacuum. It was tangled up with broader concerns: staff turnover, tight control over media access, and the couple's growing habit of only speaking to hand-picked outlets. One pattern emerged clearly. When the criticism came from a reputable place with actual sources and solid facts, they either ignored it or tried to counter it through softer media channels. Take People magazine, for example. Meghan's friends gave glowing interviews defending her, only for it to come out later through court documents that she had authorized the entire thing. At the time, she played coy, suggesting she had no idea it was happening. But behind the scenes, she was orchestrating the narrative just as much as the palace ever did. And yet, for all that effort, the one question that never seems to go away is this: if these stories were truly false, where are the glowing testimonials from staff who loved working with her? You don't need to sit down with Oprah to say someone was a good boss. You could tell your yoga class. But nobody does. The palace's own reaction to the bullying allegations added another layer of confusion. After Valentine's article made waves, Buckingham Palace took a rare step. They announced an internal investigation. On the surface, it seemed like a bold move. They were taking the matter seriously, at least publicly. But what came next raised more eyebrows than answers. The investigation was quietly conducted by an outside legal firm and then buried. The results were never released, not even summarized. No transparency, no accountability, just a vague promise that HR policies were being updated. At first, many assumed the palace was protecting Meghan, but insiders like Valentine saw it differently. The silence wasn't about shielding the Sussexes. It was about protecting the institution. The firm wasn't hired to determine if Meghan had bullied anyone. Their job was to assess how the palace had handled the complaints. In other words, it wasn't, was Meghan guilty? It was, did we follow the right steps? And when you frame it like that, it becomes easier to sweep things under the rug without technically lying. But the damage was done. Once the palace acknowledged there was something to investigate, they raised expectations for answers they never intended to give. That decision, meant to calm things down, ended up creating even more doubt. And Meghan's critics pointed to the lack of published findings as proof she'd gotten away with it. Her defenders spun it as proof there was nothing damning. The truth, as always, sat somewhere in the murky middle. Then there's the matter of staff turnover in California. The couple's Montecito team has gone through more than 24 people in just a few years. And while no one's waving around NDAs or leaking emails from inside their Santa Barbara mansion, the pattern feels eerily familiar. High-profile hires, quiet departures, LinkedIn updates with suspiciously short employment dates, people with stellar reputations elsewhere suddenly becoming ghosts after working with Meghan and Harry. The theory floated by some insiders is simple. Meghan doesn't listen. She hires talented people with real experience, then tunes them out. She's smart, no doubt, but she also reportedly believes she's the smartest person in every room. That might work in Hollywood or social circles, but it's a terrible recipe for team dynamics. And when things don't go her way, the instinct isn't reflection, it's control. Even her approach to the press follows this pattern. Instead of building relationships with credible journalists, Meghan seems to favor compliant outlets that will print flattering coverage without pushing back. It's how People magazine ended up being used as a tool. It's how US Weekly became her go-to for reactive PR. And it's why reporters like Valentine Low, who demand facts and balance, remained on her blacklist. But maybe the most telling silence is the one that surrounds Harry. Some have painted him as a bystander, someone who didn't see the worst behavior or even intervened when things got tense. But Valentine's reporting suggests that's not how staff saw it. To them, Harry wasn't stepping in to help, he was part of the problem. And whatever moral compass he once had seemed to spin wildly once he and Meghan became a unit. As for what's next, no one really knows. There are rumors of reconciliation, whispers of Harry and King Charles rebuilding their relationship, but those close to the situation say it would take a miracle for William to thaw. And even if the royal family finds peace behind closed doors, public trust isn't so easily repaired. Because until real answers come out, if they ever do, the shadow of those unanswered allegations will always follow them.